All right, good morning, everybody. Let's get started. I'm Ashley Kramer. I'm Senior Vice President of Product at Alteryx. I've been at Alteryx for about 2.5 years, and my team's responsible for the vision, strategy, and roadmap across the entire platform. Prior to Alteryx, I was at another company that you're all probably pretty familiar with called Tableau Software, and I was their head of cloud. I launched Tableau Online. I was there for 4 years, so this is like a big old family reunion for me this year. To get started, how many people in the room are familiar with Alteryx? Maybe that was a dumb question. How many people are currently using Alteryx? Okay, that was better. Okay, so we got a lot of Alteryx plus Tableau people in here. So what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit about how we see the modern analytic journey in getting you from where you are today to where you need to be in the future. And then I'm going to invite a really great customer, a joint Tableau Alteryx customer, 2 customers up, to talk a little bit about their journey. So I always like to start with a quote by one of my favorite authors, Clayton Christensen, who wrote The Innovator's Dilemma. And to summarize this quote, what this is saying is everything that you've done that made your business great up until today is going to make it really, really hard to compete for the disruption. And the reason behind that is really threefold. One is, and I usually get head shakes on this, you're probably stuck in some legacy technology, which has led to legacy processes and legacy mindsets. So people are stuck in these legacy ways. And because of that, research finds that 70% of organizations have yet to really create a data-driven enterprise. And if you were all at the keynote this morning, we see data culture and building a culture of analytics very similar to our great partner, Tableau. So we want to help you try to figure out how to break out of some of these legacy ways. And the way we see this is a step-by-step process, and you're all probably somewhere on this analytic journey. The first is embarking on self-service analytics. So being able to uncover insights and data faster, we typically call this descriptive analytics. The next step is where Alteryx is really focused right now. That's helping up-level the skill sets of users to help them unleash advanced analytics. Get into understanding what happened, what you should do next, so predictive and prescriptive analytics. The next step is being able to go from having one data hero to an entire organization collaborating and scaling analytics together. And then finally, this last one is really, really important, and Adam touched on this morning, and that's all around building a culture of analytics. This typically takes C-level down support, bringing everybody together to make sure that they're collaborating around data, trusting the insights they're making, and moving their business forward together. So now we'll break down each of these steps and talk a little bit about how Alteryx plus Tableau can help. So this first statistic's pretty startling for me. It's basically saying 87% of us in this room are disengaged at work. And that's really sad to me because I don't think it means people don't like their company, they don't believe in the mission. I actually truly believe most people do. It's because you're stuck doing manual and mundane things that you really don't like. And so 74% say when they introduce automation, they start to be happier with what they're doing. So you can break this down in steps and think about identifying what are those manual processes that you come in every day. Typically, I know this is kind of a bad word around these parts, but typically it's locked in Excel or in spreadsheets. We always say at Alteryx, Excel is great for some things, but it is not a database. So many people have tried to use it as a database. And so being able to eliminate those time-consuming tools and processes and just automate your way out of all of these processes, because everybody in this room, I know it, I don't know you all personally, are really, really smart, and you're doing things that you don't need to be doing. You should be using that brain power to drive your business forward. So where Alteryx can help, Alteryx, as you all know, you all raised your hand, drag and drop, prep and blend data, add augmentation on top of it, add predictive analytics, and of course, really great partnership with Tableau so we can connect to any data source. And as of just earlier this month, we can connect to Hyper now. So Tableau has opened up a Hyper API, and it was our #1 request on the Ideas Forum. And you now can not only write to Hyper, you can actually read from it as well. So that's really exciting. It's in beta today. You can either stop by the Alteryx booth and check it out or go to our beta site, try it out, and please give us your feedback. That'll be part of our Q4 release. So this next step of unleashing advanced analytics, there's some startling statistics around here that aren't on this just yet. There's a recent LinkedIn job report that stated there are 150,000 data science jobs currently open. There's simply not enough data scientists, and 60% of professionals are dissatisfied with what they're doing because they can't get to that next step. They're not a data scientist, they don't know how to get into predictive analytics, and they don't have the data scientist's time to help them. And so what Alteryx is aiming to do is, via technology, help you, without having to know how to code, start building machine learning models, predictive and prescriptive analytics, and then also collaborate with the data scientists. The other side of this is data scientists often aren't happy in their jobs because they're building models and they have no way to deploy them. So Alteryx helps bridge all of those gaps and helps these 60% of people that feel like they can't get to that next level by using modern technology. So this is all about making confident decisions so you know where you're going next as a business and not just what is happening today, and being able to build these cross relationships, no longer the business over here and the data scientists over here, everybody working together to really reach your full analytics potential in your organization. And we do this in two ways. We're code-free, drag and drop, just like everything else, but we also have integrated Python, Jupyter Notebook support, R support, so those data scientists can come in and collaborate in Alteryx in one analytic process and then go off and continue doing their high-value work. And we also have a real-time modeling solution called Promote for those data scientists to get those really high-value models into production quickly. Now, let's talk about breaking down silos and really collaborating. We hear a lot about disparate data. We hear as people start to modernize their technology, you often have sales doing one thing, product doing another, customer success doing another, and it still creates these silos. So imagine if support and product could be working together and looking at the same data and assets to retain customers. They're 6 times as likely to do that. If sales could work seamlessly with marketing using the data and the insights that they have, 23 times more likely to acquire new customers. And so it's really important that organizations learn how to break down these silos as you modernize your technology to really collaborate and move forward together. And again, this is all about uncovering where you can find cross-functional collaboration and expertise, making sure everybody is empowered to make decisions. Even in our organization at Alteryx, we of course use Alteryx on Alteryx. Our sales team leverages analytics probably more than anyone. They need to know if their customers are going to churn, and they can't go to our data science team to ask that question. So we use Alteryx plus Tableau dashboards to give them those customer 360 insights. And then finally, this next step is all about being able to break down these silos and build a culture of analytics. So really have C-level support. We saw a CDO today from Nissan who did a great job explaining how she's transformed the business and has everybody collaborating to move the business forward. But the harsh reality is that 53% of organizations aren't treating data as an asset, and they're not competing using data and analytics. However, this is the interesting part, 97% of organizations are investing big in these buzzwords, AI initiatives and ML. So what does this mean at this point? It means there is investment at the CDO level to invest in technology. However, we can't forget that we need to also change the processes and the people's mindsets. And this is something that an entire organization has to collaborate around. I'd also encourage you not to introduce 20 different data and analytics tools. Pick the platforms that are most powerful to bring people together if you really want to build a culture of analytics. Some of you are smiling. I remember at Tableau, the Power BI, because it's free, versus Click, versus Tableau discussion, right? You need C-level support to really have that one single source of truth. And Alteryx can connect to all of those, but it also can bring that all together in coordination with Tableau with you. So building the right data foundation, let's stop having silos in different groups. Let's bring the data together. It can be whatever, a data lake. It can be data in different business applications, and being able to scale and transform the entire organization. And this is where you really start to step in and start using innovation and get to that next level of digital transformation. And so this is all about being able to pick the right products, the right processes, the right technology to drive your business forward. And we happen to have joining us today a really, really great Alteryx plus Tableau customer, Signet Jewelers. And so now I would like to introduce Gary Griccio. I said it right, didn't I? All right. Director in Market Analytics at Signet Jewelers and also an Alteryx Ace, which is the equivalent of a Zen Master at Tableau. And Ian Reed, Manager of Enterprise Analytics, to come on and join us and talk about their analytic journey.
Hello. Hello.
So Beth didn't give me a stool, maybe that was why.
It's a little unstable. I'm good.
All right, so to start, can you tell us what life was like before Alteryx and Tableau?
Yeah, for me personally, before Alteryx and Tableau, we're talking like 10 or 11 years ago, so the world was dramatically different. And this was something that required me to have multiple specialized tools to do my job. I was in the marketing research department, but I also supported real estate, so I did store forecasting for stores, and basically had to have one set of tools to do customer analytics, one set of tools to do geocoding, one set of tools to do mapping, another set of tools to do data processing like Access Excel, all of these different Word documents that we would produce. And our reporting was very static. So I would produce a PDF for each market that we evaluated, and that would stack up. And I had maybe 20 to 25 people on a distribution list that I would carry this huge stack of papers around and hope that they didn't fall out of my hands.
Sounds very efficient.
Yeah, very, very efficient, right? So it was pretty drudgery filled, I guess, I would say.
Yeah, so I joined Gary's team. When I first started, I mean, I was heads down in Excel, which I know is like a taboo word to say, but we were.
We need Mike.
I knew I was going to forget to do that. He told me not to, too. All right, can you guys hear me?
That's better.
Okay. So I joined Gary's team. When I first started, I mean, I was heads down in Excel. So I was doing the same daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly reports, and then doing them all over again. So it was really a monotonous job that I was doing. We joked internally, especially now looking back, and said we were glorified report builders, because that's what we were. I mean, we weren't doing any analytics. My executives would ask a number, can I get a number at this aggregation, at this split out? And then I would spew that information to them. But we weren't being analysts. And then from a reporting standpoint, just as Gary said, I mean, we had literally documents of PDFs this large that we were carrying from meetings to meetings. And then even when we got to the meetings were more about the validity of the data and challenging the accuracy than it was about the strategic mission.
Yeah, and then organizationally, we were a little bit behind. So these were things that we started developing early on, and we eventually incorporated into our departmental level way of doing things, but the company still was on all these disparate sources. Our IT department wanted to have sort of like this one-size-fit-all monolithic sort of tool that would fit everyone's needs, but it didn't always. And so the departments would go out and they would stand up their own little shadow IT departments and create MicroStrategy environments or SaaS environments, and they would have these sort of siloed approaches where maybe they were expert at the way that they did things in their data, but nobody could share the information because they were all on different systems.
Let me dig into the IT thing a little bit, because this is something we deal with a little bit at Alteryx, particularly in the bigger customers. Was it resistance from IT, time of IT? Why did all of these shadow IT departments start popping up?
I think in some sense it could be a cultural thing. They didn't really understand the needs of the business. They knew the tools that would potentially get data from point A to point B, but maybe didn't fit all of the needs. I think in some ways it possibly was a resource thing. So if IT is involved in a report creation and things like that on an enterprise level, they may not have time to help the departments with their own needs. And I think in some ways maybe, it's clearly relevant that IT potentially views some of these other things as competing with what they do. So if you're in an organization where you have an IT department that was charged with building reports for the enterprise level, and eventually departments want to do those kind of same things, it may sort of like threaten their position within the organization a bit.
They got to automate their way out of that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Do higher level things. Okay. Anybody in IT is in here.
Yeah, I know. Sorry to anyone in IT if I'm
No, it's great.
Here.
I mean, we have some great customers that have actually partnered with the Alteryx teams in the customer site because they don't want to do those things anymore. Every time somebody has a question, they don't want to have to write that query. And so it is possible to partner, but it does take some convincing and some evangelism.
Yeah, and I was just going to jump in too. I think one of the things that at least stood out to me is I don't think our IT department knew the capabilities that we had in the business units. They thought that they always knew better, but I mean, as time goes on and data becomes more prevalent, I mean, the business units are becoming increasingly knowledgeable. So one of the things I would tell you guys to do is working with IT, don't try and attack them in what they're doing, but just let them know that, hey, we're on the same page. We're all trying to get the same goal accomplished, and we do know what we're doing.
Absolutely. All right, thank you for that. So we often hear from customers that they reach a point where they realize they need to evaluate how they use and manage their analytics. What was the turning point for you? It sounds like a stack of paper, but what was the turning point when you realized that you had to work differently?
Well, I think within our department, there were so many Access and Excel related processes, and especially with Microsoft Access, it was a bit touchy. We had large data sets, but when you're running something and you have multiple users hitting it, you would very often get data sets that would hang up, and then you'd have to call IT to have them restore it to a previous version. And we had many, many people who were just so inefficient with their job. They were filling in a lot of Excel spreadsheets, and then they would fill the same data that they filled into Excel into Access and these kind of things, and then you generate these reports. And it was a lot of reporting, but not much analytical insight. These are multi-day processes, and Brian Smith, who's back there, was able to take one of the processes that took 3 days and several people to do down to like less than 1 minute in Alteryx. And I think that was a big proof point to the departmental leadership that we could implement it departmentally. From an organization standpoint, because we were showcasing our abilities with Alteryx and Tableau to the C-suite, eventually we gained recognition, and they basically said, we now want you to take what you've done within real estate and start evangelizing that to the rest of the organization, because we feel that there's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained in other departments.
So let me dig into that one, because I get asked often. I was actually just in Asia meeting with customers last week, and they said their biggest problem is getting that visibility and proving out the ROI to the right stakeholders. What were some tactics that you took to make sure that that was visible to them?
I think our executives within real estate helped out a lot with that. So there were times when they would go to a meeting and they would just not bring any of the papers with them. They would bring their laptop and they would present something as a dashboard in front of the senior executives. And I think getting them on board with that, I mean, it actually does take a little while. I mean, you get somebody comfortable with the idea of using a dashboard and presenting in Tableau, and potentially they have to be a bit of a cheerleader for you. But at the same time, they did do that legwork for us. And so I guess one of the key points in this is that you really have to have a partnership with your internal executives, maybe somebody within the C-suite team as well. So there is a cultural component and a relationship component there.
Okay.
I mean, I know one example Gary had too, the ROI. The ROI is a tough question, right? I mean, we're actually talking about that later this afternoon, but there were several processes that we were paying a third-party vendor that Gary said, hey, I can do this inside of Alteryx, and he saved tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. The other thing too is, I mean, these tools, it's changing the way we do business. So yes, you have to answer that ROI question, but what we found over time is that the executives, they came in and said, yep, we get it. It's not an ROI question, it's how could you guys can't do your job without this type of a thing.
Yeah, and we see both on the Tableau and Alteryx side these huge ROIs. We have a public one. A major airline saved $80 million, but that doesn't happen in the first month, or that doesn't happen before that deal comes through. So it's trying to balance the future value as well, that I think can be a challenge, but Alteryx is always willing to help you guys with that. We see this a lot. I want to dig into, you said Access, and this is just a question for the crowd. How many people are still using Access? I got asked last week for us to do an output to Access connector, and I just they're a little bit behind in APAC still, but okay, so a few people, all right, good to know. Anything else to add to this, or any other tactics? Do you do hackathons internally? Do you do innovation days to get more adoption?
We do, and we do have a whole slate of things that we do internally. I know that we're going to talk a little bit about that later in one of the questions, but we do have ways that we're trying to socialize this throughout the organization and get people together, because it is a people thing as much as it is a technology thing. I can train somebody how to use a new technology within like a few weeks or months or something like that, but how do you get somebody to break maybe 20 years of bad habits? Right. And that's the kind of thing that we'll talk a little bit more in detail about
Technology, process, people.
Yeah.
All right, so as you started your journey and embarked on self-service analytics, what did you experience, what did that experience look like, and what did you learn?
So yeah, I can start with that. So speaking for myself, my journey, I mean, Gary came to me and showed me these tools, and I got it, but I didn't dive in head first, kind of dip my toe in it. It wasn't until I went to the Alteryx conference, it's very similar to this. The vibe that you guys get is you're surrounding yourself with people that are enthusiastic about the product. They're extremely passionate, and that resonates with me, right? You can't be around that and not be affected by that. So when I came back, someone recommended to dive into, they have weekly challenges for Alteryx, and that was a game changer for me. I learned by doing, so having an opportunity to follow a set from beginning to end, that's how I picked it up. But going back to what I think you were saying, Ashley, you're developing a culture. So my journey and what I learned from this and helping others is you need to teach them to teach themselves almost. If they come to me and I say, hey, this is how you do it, you're almost doing them a disservice because I want to get them ingrained in the culture.
Great.
My own personal journey began like more than 10 years ago, and it was right at the height of the recession. I was losing people to another department, and I was trying to find a way to become more efficient and a way to automate some of the things that I was doing, and even some things I was paying a third-party vendor to do at that time. And so what I learned very quickly was how efficient that I could be with this. I knew that I was creating a lot of maps for the organization because I started like in that department and doing a lot of spatial calculations. But what I saw was there was a lot of potential because there were a lot of calculations I was doing that were pure math that other people were doing math in the things that they were doing. They were just taking 10 times as long. Very difficult to kind of get people to change. What I learned about the organization was just how many, I alluded to it before, but just how many disparate data sources there were and how many people were even using tools that were developed by somebody who already left the organization, and they had no idea how to maintain the pulls they were getting out of SaaS and these kind of things. Somebody left maybe 5 years ago, they just trusted that they would work. And there were many, many people who had that. They didn't know how to read the code, but they just knew that if they ran it, it might work. Yeah. We worked with somebody who was running SaaS procedures for monthly data for 12 months of data. It would take them an hour for each month, so 12 hours. Wow. I sat down with them, with Ian, and within, it took like maybe a half a day, right? But we built a workflow that took like 2 minutes to pull the same data that was taking him 12 hours.
Wow. To that point about people leaving, people switching jobs, there's a huge problem in every organization, including Alteryx, that you lose that tribal knowledge. And it gets even worse when there's code involved. And so I was visiting a customer in Canada, a large bank, and one of the leaders there told me that he makes every single new analyst learn Alteryx and do all of their modeling in Alteryx because analysts are very often taken by other companies, given a little bit more money, particularly earlier in their careers. And he was having this problem, and analysts would leave and they would just look at all of their work and not know what was happening. So he mandated that every analyst used Alteryx as their succession plan. And I thought that was really interesting, particularly how Alteryx is pretty well documented, so everything that was happening. So that tribal knowledge is now part of a workflow or an analytic process, and you don't have to worry as much about that turnover. And it sounds like you used it to automate, and probably a little bit for that as well.
And it's been helpful for myself. There are things I've done 3 years ago that I need to go back and figure out how I pulled something, or even people will say, like, where did this data come from? And I'm able to use a workflow to say, well, this is a data set you gave me that I then incorporated into my work.
Yep, and we often do get the request, I'll talk a little bit of roadmap right now, but we often get the request, can you document the workflow even more?
I would love that.
So it's coming. Good news, beginning of next year, we're working on actually being able to automate a report for you. So for that exact reason, 3 years ago, what was I doing? How did that data change? An auditor comes in. What's happening with your data? You can print out a report that basically parses what's happening in the workflow. So that is part of the roadmap that is coming. We mentioned Inspire. How many people were at the Inspire conference this year? So a great opportunity for learning, for understanding what other customers are doing, and of course, seeing more roadmaps. So our conference is next year in June in New Orleans, and we'd love to see some of you there. All right, so now can you walk us through the moment you realized you wanted to do more with analytics and how you realized the impact that it would cause to your business, really unleashing more advanced analytics?
I think for those of you that have seen the analytics maturity curve, I think when my moment that I recognized it was right when we got to the descriptive part. I think we had a good basis of saying what was going on in our company and what was going on in the past. But we were being challenged is, okay, that's great, but now we need to start doing the more predictive, prescriptive optimization that you alluded to earlier. And that was where we got a roadblock. We worked with other departments, and we commonly got the response that it's too time consuming, or we just don't have the technical know-how. So that's when Gary and I got involved, and we helped out. I mean, we have countless examples of how we did that, but I think that was the moment that our executives finally realized we're becoming a data-driven company. And what's cool about that is, in the past, you had to have a high level of understanding of statistics or have coding background. I had neither of those, but I'm able to contribute. So what this tool is doing is breaking down that barrier of entry so that you can keep that knowledge in the department and then supplement it with great tools like Alteryx and Tableau.
And how did you learn Alteryx just by, trial and error? Did you use our community? How did you use other people?
I'd say a combination of all three of those.
Okay.
And I think that's where most people find their success. I think and it goes back to teach yourself, right? So if I don't find it through the community, which is fantastic, you can post on there. I've had people respond to me in less than 5 minutes, even scheduling meetings.
Wow.
Not Alteryx vendor, these are people that are just in the business world. Yeah, I'd say all three of those.
Okay, great.
From an overall analytics perspective, there were a lot of corporate initiatives that were probably well served with analytics. They just weren't being done. No one was stepping up to do them, and it's sort of like they didn't reside anywhere. And there were people that had certainly the capability to do predictive analytics, and whether it was they just didn't have the capacity to add something, or potentially they didn't want to be held accountable for what the results might be. Those kind of things happen, right? I had been comfortable with risk. I had been doing sales forecasts for stores for almost 20 years. And so my name would be basically on most of the forecasts that we had for stores. So I'd already been sort of comfortable with the idea of risk. And when they came with this need, we said, yeah, we can help fill that. So within real estate, we began building corporate sales prediction models based on the ARIMA tool in the Alteryx Predictive Suite.
And back to learning, predictive analytics. You can use Alteryx to do the hard work, the coding in the background for you. We found from our customers over the years that we needed to do more. So we actually have a feature that you're all welcome to try in beta right now called assisted modeling. And what it does is it takes out the guessing game of what kind of model you need. So traditionally we have our tools that say logistic regression, decision tree, but there's a large amount of people that know they have a data set and they want to predict churn, and they have no idea what else to do. They have no idea what kind of model it needs, what the best model to use is. So what this is a guided utility to walk you through cleaning up your data, running through a few models locally on your computer, and then giving you back the model, which ends up being an Alteryx workflow. So it's called assisted modeling. It's in a public beta right now. And if you're interested in getting to this next step of unleashing advanced analytics, I'd encourage you to try it out. Have either of you tried it out? Putting you on the spot.
I have in some of the behind-the-scenes ACE meetings that we've had.
The top secret meetings.
Yes.
Okay, well, it's a public beta now.
Okay.
We've seen demos of it. I've not played with it. I'm anxious too, but it'll be.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and I think it's a good addition to really start bridging this gap between people that know everything about models and people that are just starting to step into that territory. All right, so when you think about scaling, it can happen in a variety of ways depending on the business. What was the driver that allowed you to scale analytics within your organization?
Executive support was the big key, because we could do what we could within our department, but to get an organizational scale, we needed more of an executive support. The Alteryx team had given us a proof of concept offer to basically try Alteryx Server and an unlimited number of licenses basically for a short period of time to see how it might scale within the organization. But our IT department wasn't going to go along with that. Okay. It wasn't on their roadmap. It wasn't something that fit. It wasn't, again, maybe from a workforce allocation that they had enough. And we had a C-level executive that basically twisted some arms and made it happen. And unfortunately, that's the way it had to work. I mean, you really would hope for more of a partnership. But what was great about that is we gave a lot of people then the flexibility to use it and sort of prove out how many licenses we might need, how an Alteryx server might scale, those kind of things, how you could potentially have viewers beyond your Alteryx users who are consumers of the data, but not really the creators and putting the information up there. And then the same with the Tableau. We were able to get we had to do proof of concept and that kind of thing. We got executive support to roll that out as well to a larger group. So we have, what's the count? The total count of Tableau users that we have today?
About 100 designers and close to 200 viewers.
On Tableau or On Tableau?
On Tableau.
Tableau server.
Alteryx, we have, 105 designers.
Designers, yes.
Alteryx server and
Wow.
Connect.
And what happened too that was fortunate for us is somebody joined our organization in IT who was really more open to this kind of enterprise analytics, and that's a little bit what we're going to talk about at our talk at 4 o'clock today, who was really open to it. And I think that in some ways you may have to shop for that person. There might be somebody within IT who is more open, but you're getting roadblocks in the beginning, and you need to find people. So again, it comes back to people.
Okay. How many people in here have Alteryx server in their organization? How many people in here love it? Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. I wanted to pitch some more roadmap here. So we've heard from our customers that the experience sometimes can be confusing, particularly you probably have Tableau server as well. We took a little bit of a fun approach in the past and named things like artisan, curator, gallery, districts, fairly limited. We have been working on the next generation server, and it is in beta today and will be released in the first half of next year. And what this is going to do is give you a much updated experience. We'll introduce sites, the concept of sites, just like Tableau has. We'll have custom roles, deeper permissions. We're going to take some of our data cataloging capability and integrate that as well. So again, that's in beta. You're welcome to go sign up, and I hope you guys will as well.
Awesome.
From a server perspective, so it sounds like you were a big part of standing it up, and you're probably a user. Sure. What are some of the use cases that you're using? Is it the automation piece? Is it the collaboration?
Yeah, I can jump in here. For me, it's been the automation piece. I mean, I think that's where we see our biggest benefits. Going back to doing my reports, I run daily, quarterly, and monthly. I mean, that's all out the window now. It's all on the server. We also use it for control reports in our databases. Mm-hmm. So we go in, we check and say, hey, are there any null values in a column of a data set? If there is, email the appropriate party who's responsible for it. So we use it as a control component to it as well. Great. But yeah, definitely the automation, it's been huge for us.
Great. Ian was also able to create a linkage between the Alteryx server and the Tableau server, or the Tableau online instance. Yep. So he has all these dashboards that in the past you would have been manually taking the data down, putting it into a Tableau desktop environment, loading it back up. And the publish to Tableau macro was allowing him to run a job at 4 a.m. that basically took the data and put it into the Tableau online environment, so those dashboards are constantly refreshed.
Wow,
without
that's
being
pretty cool.
without having to do any manual steps.
That's awesome.
And we also have users that are using analytical apps where we developed a real estate documents. Again, when you think about the documents that you would produce or stack, well, they're in PDF now. They come right out of Alteryx, and our real estate team who doesn't have Alteryx will go in and they'll identify locations that we want to bring into a committee to discuss. And they can put those numbers in and run in the background an analytical app that produces the PDF that feeds the meeting.
Are you using the reporting suite for that?
Yes.
How many people in here are using reporting in that type of way in Alteryx? The reporting suite are the orange tools.
He developed it.
You're part of
you should come
company.
up here.
Yeah. It's the orange set of tools. It is a little hard to learn at first. It's really powerful. Once you've learned it, you can create 500 different PDFs that, based on a KPI, send different information to 500 different people at a time. What we've been working on is consolidating the reporting experience. We're introducing more of a drag and drop way of creating reports. So we're really excited in the first half of next year. I'd encourage you to check out reporting again and see if you can do some more of this automation. We haven't made it that easy on you, but it will be a lot easier coming very soon.
Yeah, and if I jump in on that too for the reporting, it truly is an underutilized aspect of Alteryx.
It really is.
People that have Alteryx and Tableau go, why would I use that if I have Tableau? Tableau is my reporting. I mean, I give a ton of reasons, but again, alluding to what Brian did, batch reporting. So for we originated out of real estate, and say we have 3,000 stores. Say we go to committee to get 100 leases approved. He can put in an Excel spreadsheet to Tableau server saying, run the report on these 100 stores. It's going to create 100 individual PDFs that they email out as a batch report, which in Tableau you would have to go in and say, click this store, take a screenshot, click this store, take a screenshot. I know there's some other things you can do, but that batch reporting feature of Alteryx is really helpful.
Yeah, it's really an underappreciated feature. However, we need to make it easier, and so that's something that we will start talking about, and at Inspire it'll be a big topic next year. When I was at Tableau, I was often asked when I'd go into customers, how can we do just that? And Tableau really believes in the interactivity of it, and it's not really a focus. And the sad part was, even when I came to Alteryx, it took me a while to realize that what they were asking for, and they mostly were all Alteryx customers as well, Alteryx had. So you hear, how do I get out of Cognos? How do I do this? Alteryx can do that, and so we want to make that better for you as well. Let's move to culture. So culture is a key component to success with analytics. I talked about that a little bit earlier. How have you created that kind of culture of analytics within Signet?
Yeah, so as we got back to the whole idea is all about people, right, and getting people to change the way they do things. And we pretty much socialized the idea that these tools will make your life better. They're not just tools that you're going to use, but they're tools that are going to allow you to go home on time. There are tools that are going to allow you to spend time with your family and maybe not be so stressed out. So we socialize that message largely to the group, talking about things like the time savings, the data blending, data enrichment that you can do, the reduction of errors and staying relevant in your career. One of the things I ask the audiences typically that we have when we have these meetings is, how many data scientists do you have in the room? And usually it's like one or two hands. I say, great, how many of you want to be replaced by a data scientist? And then no hands go up because everyone's like, yeah, I want to stay relevant. So using these tools keep you relevant. We have ways to foster collaboration. So we have a Microsoft Teams group for the analytics community to use, and people are actually almost like it serves as its own internal Alteryx community in a way, and Tableau community where people ask questions and answer. The answers come from internal. We have quarterly user groups where we present use cases or best practices, those kind of things. We have some social events that we plan. We have sometimes training that we bring on site and have like the users come to. And then we are in the process of implementing Alteryx Connect, which we view as a very social way to get to problems with data. And we are internally within real estate, or the enterprise analytics team, as we call ourselves now, we're in the process of standing up like a POC for that, like to get that.
How many people in here are familiar with Connect? So Connect is data cataloging, and what Tableau talked about this morning is cataloging within the Tableau environment and ecosystem, which is great. Alteryx has a catalog that spans that. So I talked earlier about, some of you shook your heads, so I know that you probably have some Power BI, some Qlik, you have different data sources. So what Alteryx aims to do is bring that all together, so it's not just Alteryx. And we do connect to the catalog API, so anything you're doing within Tableau can be surfaced there. So this is a big piece of what we're seeing as far as customers starting to figure out how to have this one-stop shop for all of their data and assets. This one does take higher level support because you can't implement a data catalog in this way and have one person using it. It's based on who's searching for what, the impact analysis side of it. So this is a really big one that can get introduced when you're ready to take that final leap to building a culture of analytics.
Yeah, and what I'll add to it too, and this goes for Alteryx and Tableau, but what I always tell people, when you're bringing these tools, that's the easy part. You're not just bringing in a tool, you're bringing in a culture, and if you're not thinking that way, you're thinking about this incorrectly. We've devoted, specifically in the past 6 months, a lot of time to build out that culture. And it's exactly what Gary said, hit them from all angles, have fun events, make it fun, make it exciting. And with that culture, what you're trying to do is not have isolated departments. Don't have a marketing department do their thing, for us and operations do another. With this culture, you're trying to bring everybody together. And that's really what's been successful for us.
Well, thank you both for joining today and sharing your thoughts. Any final thoughts before we do a wrap up, and I want to open up for Q&A?
Yeah, I know that we're announced as Signet Jewelers, but I just wanted to clarify that we are Kay Jewelers, Jared the Galleria of Jewelry, Zales, and Piercing Pagoda. And I'm just wondering if anyone in the audience has ever heard or seen one of our commercials. It might have been today, right?
I know the song. I can sing the song.
Does anyone know the Kay? Yeah, the Kay jingle.
The Kay Jewelers song.
And we are speaking at 4 o'clock. We have a session in Coral B where we're going to give a little bit more detail of what we're actually trying to accomplish. So we have some dedicated slides to a lot of the things that we talked about today that go into a little bit more detail in explaining what we've actually done and how we've done it.
All right, let's do a quick wrap up, and then please stay here because I'm sure there's going to be some questions for you. All right, so to wrap up, using Alteryx plus Tableau can get you from data to insights to action. Asset inputs, we're happy to announce that Tableau Hyper is now part of that initial asset input, so that's great. Everything you need to do around data to insights to building that next level of what do I do next, all part of the Alteryx platform, and then of course application outputs. Tableau, a huge partner and a huge part of that as well. Use together, which it sounds like a lot of people in this room are probably doing. Our partnership is very strong, and people that are using Alteryx and Tableau together, we have found, have bigger implementations and are able to take these steps faster and get to building a culture of analytics in a more efficient way. We do have Alteryx Analytics templates for Tableau. There is a learning curve when you first open up Alteryx to figure out how to get started, and so we have analytic templates that you can download and get started really, really quickly that integrate all of the pieces where we integrate with Tableau. So those are available if you go to alteryx.com/TC19 starter kit. And then finally, stop by our booth. 9:15 probably means nothing to you, but it's a huge pink booth in the middle where we are Tableau's top sponsor, and we have been for the past many years. They are also top sponsor at our conference. Join us for our expert panel that Beth in the back there will be hosting called Creating a Culture of Analytics. That's Thursday at 12. And then, as Gary mentioned, join Signet if you want to get a deeper dive on exactly how they have used Alteryx plus Tableau together. So with that, we have some mics that we can run around. What questions do you have for either myself or Ian and Gary?